Hello, my name is Ronit Purian, and I'm happy to be here today with you. I would like to present you a course that I teach in Tel Aviv University. It's called The Ethics of Big Data in the Smart City. Data ethics is an interesting topic today. In this course, we discuss it in the context of cities, because in the last decades we see not only the technological acceleration, but also the enormous urban growth. So we discuss the tangible impact of technology on cities, on the physical dimension, and also the hidden impact on perceptions, feelings, attitudes. Not always the technology affects us in ways that we really can observe or measure. So this is more elusive and a subject for psychological research. The other thing here is the importance of collective behavior, because we're responsible not only to ourselves. There are so many interdependencies that our behaviors and decisions affect others much more than before in less crowded cities. And after understanding the new urban environment and the interactions with technological interfaces with other people, with mobility, places, public spaces, we get to start doing something about it. I call it to roll up our sleeves and designing the artifact, not only analyzing and criticizing technology. And in this semester, this is the third time that I teach this course, and in this semester we had the corona crisis that made very questions here very tangible and crystallized the tensions that we discuss in the course. First is the role of the state, not only the city, as an organizing mechanism and regulating mechanism. The isolation and is really related to social aspects of urban life, and of course the public space and the social distancing is related here. After one meeting, after the first week in the semester, we couldn't meet anymore physically, so we moved to Zoom, and the course includes much more emphasis on the personal projects that the students were writing and studying, in addition to a group project that is part of the course. And the personal works were around three main areas. One is what's going on in this COVID crisis in terms of mobility, trust in the government, national policies, and the place of values and cultures. The second is about social distance, contact tracing, surveillance, and the aspect of being tracked, which is already an issue in smart cities research and in a world of um, surveillance capitalism, as we call it. And here the fact that the government is going to watch us in contact tracing application raised many concerns. And the third area is about some of the benefits that we experienced during the lockdown, and the question, how can we keep some of these advantages after this period. Clean air, for example. This is only one of the benefits of slowing down and having a focus on our life. So this is in general what I'm going to talk about today, about the way that the pandemic affected the course and crystallized the questions that we study in this course. And the other thing is the projects that the students were carrying out here. And of course, in addition to the COVID-19, the virus itself, we had also the social outbreak, let's call it that way, in the US, as well as some other developments, let's call it that way, in Facebook, for example, as we'll get to soon. So let's start with describing the project, the group project in that course. The main idea is to feel the environment, to be more sensitive to our immediate places and spaces where we live and walk and feel every day. In the first semester, the project was about making an accessibility map for wheelchairs. Here you can see two students just trying to experience this wheelchair. And in the second semester, we tried to develop a similar map for visually impaired people. And in this semester, we just started developing an application for that auditory navigation with really auditory interface for the visually impaired. These are just mock-ups for the application. First, we had it with maps. The student designed the map. You can see here the destination, the route, and the map is, of course, not for the blind, but for their also for other users and for their instructors. After trying walking around with the application in campus, something that you should do when you develop an application, a new product, to meet the user and see how it works, we realized that the map is really unnecessary, and the next stage was to have a much more simple interface, and then we moved on. So that's about the project. That's its goal is not only to be social conscious and think of doing good. It's very important, but the other aspect here is to increase the sensitivity to the placemaking, to fill in our streets and our neighborhoods and the place that we're living. And that's very important in a period where technology is like clearing so many aspects of our life. In this picture, this picture is from an invitation to an event about building a city analytics capability. Sometimes these digital routines and efficient routines make us less livable. and this is what we were trying to understand in the course, how to keep the intimate aspect of meetings, of getting to know other people in the public space in a time of efficiency, productivity, time is money, and all of that. And above all, we know that we live under so many trackers for different reasons. I'll not get into that right now, but this is also an aspect that received much attention during the pandemic. The other thing that's in the background of the urban studies and urban planning is the climate crisis, and what are we going to do about that? With all the questions about responsibility, and as the idea is in this lecture is to see how this course about smart cities is changing its form right in the second week because of the shutdown of everything. It makes all other problems that we are used to much more, let's call it extreme. This is, for example, a cover of a magazine that's look very nice, but actually it's not real. I was looking for it in the Time magazine website. It's not real. So is truth dead? So many very fundamental questions are around us, and sometimes you think maybe it's ridiculous to ask these questions because they're so profound, and maybe I'm just it can't be serious. Okay, it's very confusing, and with this confusion we need to grow up and to build our identity. I'm not talking about myself, but about the students. And these students are going to be the next generation of investigators and artists, and what's going on there. So one of the topics of the personal project is to develop a survey. Now I'll present the new things that happen in this course, just to understand what's going on in their lives of the students. We developed the survey, and it's going to be carried out nowadays. The survey is developed based on other national surveys that we were watching over the time. This is, for example, a survey that presents the importance of trust in government. The more trust in government, a person is more likely to install the contact tracing application on the phone. So here, this is why COVID-19 is different, because national questions are much more crucial here, more than in a community level. Same here. This is more recent survey that asks not about contact tracing, but about other measures of social distancing. And as you can see, while health is usually something that's treated in a community level, here the governments are involved and lead the fight, let's call it, in the virus. So trust in government, which is usually something very important for social resilience, is now in question. Maybe resistance is more important than compliance. What's more responsible? These are very tough questions in these days. And then the riots in the US began and made us much more worried about the already known problems of profiling and criminalization in smart cities because of too much uh, supervision of people in different neighborhoods. And the riots raised also other issues, for example, urban morphology, the fact that there are no street networks that makes communities get to know each other, but highways that separate them. The morphology of separation is really something that you can see, and it's in addition to having the very high numbers of investment in militarization, the police in this aspect, we could see not new data, quite old data by the Marshall Project of simply the militarization of the police. What you see in the streets is the you look at the people and you see the numbers. This is the input and the output is over there on the streets. Now, actually, nothing here is new. We know the data, we know the recommendations. Here you have the solutions by Campaign Zero, which is based on many reports and studies, valuable stuff, but it's not new. The thing is that cities are complex systems, and one of the characters of a complex system is that you can't predict it. You can recognize patterns and behaviors, but it's unpredictable. Now we had that spark, and change might happen after a long time of equilibrium and internal tensions. Same happened in Facebook. We knew for already several years about problems there in fact-checking, among others. And but now something happened, and we see a leaked post of employee worrying that history will not judge us kindly. So what we see here is again reaction after a long period of the status quo. Now, after reviewing all these changes, I would like to present some of the studies by the students and see how it's all related. So first that I can present here is by Google Trends. You can see here the search for the word privacy. It's worldwide. The red is the last year and blue is these months. And as you can see, unemployment was something much more in focus, and toilet paper. The differences in the search for unemployment in between countries are very interesting. I wish we had time to discuss it further, but you could see here the trust in the government or the social policy and how worried are people about on their income. This is a study by the student or Pickles and other students compared mobility in different cities and the health data, and here we could see the values and the reaction to national policy. This is a study by Neta Ilan. When she compared Moscow to other cities and then she checked in Istanbul, she could see a decrease in the mobility much before we could see an increase in the disease, the spread of the disease. So something here doesn't work, something is strange, and it raised questions about data transparency or accountability. In Singapore, it's just nice to see how once the government decides to start the quarantine, the mobility just stops at once. Other studies are about surveillance and machine learning data bias. This is really relevant after going over the militarization data of the police in the US and taking into account the impact of technology in our cities. Technology might be used not in the expected ways. The last area of studies is about the life after the lockdown. How can we keep the benefits of that period? Here you can see that in Canada, I think it's in Ottawa, I hope I'm not wrong, there is still a low level of pedestrians in the streets, but significant rise in bicycles compared to the months before. This is work by Tomer Burida, and there are many other works that are related to mobility, accessibility, public transportation, and equal access to the transportation. This is just a few of many other works done by more than 50 students in that course. And if I need to sum up all this very complicated view, I would say that as Michael Batty said, how we can invent but not predict the future of cities, that we must remember that competition is not a policy. We need good regulation for this complex system, which is very difficult to regulate. The other thing is that technology shapes our economic institutions, and we must be much more active about that and roll our sleeves and start shaping technology, not only study how technology affects us. And the third thing is that smart cities should be a lean city, lean urbanism, which means using data and models in order to really try to better understand what's going on and to design the city that artifact maybe in better ways. That's all for now. I'll be happy to continue discussions later. Bye-bye. And feel free to send an email.